I'm going to address my own experience with the work to bring about a UN tribunal to investigate and to hear the evidence in the 1988 massacre. The evidence itself, others will speak about undoubtedly today, and it is very well known and very well reported, and it isn't in any way denied by Iran. So looking back to my own personal involvement, that really came about in around 2015. In 2016, I was in Geneva as part of the launch of the Justice for Victims of the 1988 massacre. And in February 2018, I was back in Geneva acting as counsel to a People's Tribunal in Geneva. And we then spent the day hearing accounts of family members of victims and of survivors of the 1988 massacre in Iran. The accounts of the 1988 massacre given to the tribunal included from a father who described receiving the news of the execution of his daughter by being told to pay for the cost of the bullets used to execute her. They included accounts from relatives still seeking information about their loved ones. They now, or by that stage, had a very low expectation, which was simply to know where their loved ones were buried so that they might be able to bury them themselves with dignity and in accordance with their religion. Their bodies continue to lie unidentified in mass graves in Iran, and many will be familiar with the work of Amnesty International in its reports in identifying more and more sites where mass graves are being uncovered and, unfortunately, too, being destroyed. One elderly woman, Fatima Safarian, spoke of still believing that her son might still be alive somewhere. She thought he's still perhaps in a prison, unlocated somewhere in Iran. And very sadly, very movingly, she spoke of how she actually still sleeps in the living room of her house near the door so that she doesn't miss the news of his return. There's much evidence of the massacre also in Amnesty International's reports, including its 2018 report, where it analysed evidence from 41 survivors, 54 family members, 11 former prisoners, and 10 other witnesses from 28 cities across Iran. Plus, it analysed the audio tape, which many will be familiar with. This was an audio tape which emerged on the 9th of August 2016, which recorded discussions between the high-level actors in the death commissions, including Khomeini, and from the 15th of August 1988. And it was made clear in this audio by Khomeini that pregnant women and girls should also be killed. There was to be no exception, certainly no application of any law, including international law, and fundamentally no mercy. Other evidence, the secret fatwa from Ayatollah Khomeini emerged in 2000. That was the fatwa which is said to be behind the original ordering of the killing and seems to be accepted as being the basis of the start of the massacre. And we've heard the figures given as at least 33,700 were killed during this short time in 1988. I'm going to finish. As a lawyer, there's plenty of evidence. What else do you need? You need a criminal law framework or an international law framework. We have that. There's plenty of evidence of crimes against humanity, possibly genocide, and a whole raft of breaches of international law, including violations of fair trial rights. There's absolutely no due process. These hearings took 2 to 3 minutes, and if a person gave an answer which was considered the wrong answer, they literally were then rounded up to be killed, hanged in groups, shot in groups, and it's reported that over a short period of only 2 weeks, 8,000 people were executed in this way. The suspects is the other part that you obviously need in setting up any tribunal. These suspects are not faceless. Again, they're set out, the names are set out in Amnesty's report in 2018. It lists 6 people there who participated in the death commissions. And many of those people also have made public statements, including as recently as 2019, when Mustafa Pour Mohammadi actually tried to justify his part in those death commissions. And so his justification or his defense could be heard within a tribunal. The tribunal itself does not need the cooperation of Iran. It can be set up separately by the UN, and reparations remedies should include facilitating both the return of human remains of deceased victims to family members and the performance of funeral and cultural rites for the dead. The past infects the present, has already been referred to. And whilst there's no time limit on justice for crimes against humanity, practically, we need to move swiftly because the evidence continues to be destroyed and witnesses are becoming older and are dying. And globally, and as an ethos, what we see is ongoing impunity in Iran, with this being affirmed as recently as the 36th session of the Human Rights Council, when the former UN Commissioner for Human Rights, Sayed Ra'ad al-Hussein, said that Iran remains the country with the highest reported rates of executions per capita. Many of those executed are drug offenders not guilty of the most serious crimes under international law, so in breach of international law, which continues. I'll end, as I often do when I make these talks, with some pointing not only to the courage of the survivors, the families, and the friends of those who still want answers and fundamentally want to see justice, but also to the only leader within Iran around this time, Motazzeri, who had the moral courage to actually object to what was going on. And there is an onus on the international community to honour the courage he showed back then. He said this: "In my view, the biggest crime in the Islamic Republic, for which history will condemn us, has been committed at your hands, and they'll write your names as criminals in history." It's time that that process actually starts within a legal framework, and the UN is the body that is set up and was set up post-World War II to address crimes against humanity such as this. Thank you.